Whether you are a beginner in MX Excel or an Excel star, if you wish to 10x your Excel skills and get some serious work done on Microsoft Excel, you have arrived at the right video. Using ChatGPT for MX Excel will forever change the way you have used Excel until now. So if you are ready to embark on this transformational journey of learning how to use ChatGPT for Excel and take your data skills to new heights, then sit tight and watch this video till the very end. Also, join a community on Great Learning Academy to get full access to the complete free course on how to use ChatGPT for Excel, where we will not only cover the basics like how to generate appropriate formula, functions, pivot tables on Excel using ChatGPT, but also practice a ton of ChatGPT prompts along with the data analysis of financial statements and balance sheets, which are a great application area for Excel. Our course is packed with real-world examples, practical solutions to problem statements, and tips and hacks that will make your Excel the secret weapon for success. Say goodbye to the tedious manual work and embrace the power of Excel to revolutionize your career. Now in this module, let's try to understand what are the key components of artificial intelligence. What does the artificial intelligence world look like in the current scenario? So let's have a brief introduction to AI. So what exactly is artificial intelligence? Now, artificial intelligence is the simulation of human intelligence in machines. It's basically incorporating the human brain in machines. That's what artificial intelligence is. Now, AI involves the development of various algorithms and computer programs, right, that can perform a variety of different tasks such as natural language processing, recognizing objects and images, making some logical decisions, and solving various complex problems that are a bit difficult for humans to solve. So this is a bit of a new thing in the current scenario, that the computers are working for us and we can interact with computers in the human language, right? The chatbots that are built, we can interact with the computers in the human language. We do not need to understand Python. We do not need to learn coding for that, right? We can just in our own language, right? English, Hindi, or any other language, you can just type in the prompts and we can get the results that we desire from computers. That's the crux about artificial intelligence. Now, what are the key elements that involve artificial intelligence, right? The first one is machine learning. Now, machine learning is basically a subset of AI that focuses on developing the various algorithms and models that enable computers to learn from data and improve their performance without explicit programming. That's what I just mentioned, that you don't need to know a lot of coding. You do not need to have an understanding of various coding languages, right? Be it Python, C++. You just need to know your basic language, be it English, be it any other language that you prefer, right? So machine learning involves tasks such as classification, regression. Now I won't get into deep into machine learning and all, but it just involves tasks like classification, regression, clustering, and reinforcement learning, right? So this is what machine learning is about. Now it's a subset of artificial intelligence. Then the next step to it comes, that is deep learning. Now deep learning is again a specialized field within machine learning that utilizes neural networks, right, with multiple layers to extract the complex patterns that are there, representations from tremendous large amount of data that is present. Now, data is being created on a day-to-day basis, right from you using your phones to generating using your laptops, computers. You're generating data on a minute-to-minute basis, right? So someone in the world needs to analyze that data, needs to find trends from that data and have logical solutions to the business problems or the problems that you are facing, right? You can have a logical answer to that. Now, deep learning has particularly been successful in areas like computer vision and natural language processing, right? These are the two areas in which it has been really significantly important for us to learn about it. Then now NLP is a branch of AI that deals with the interactions of computers and human language, right? This is the bridge. It just bridges the gap between the computers and human language. Now it involves tasks like language understanding, sentiment analysis, right? For example, you have a customer feedback. You're running a company. You want the feedback from your customers, right? So you can generate a customer feedback form. You can understand the sentiments, right? Now the sentiments would not be numerical, right? It would not be quantified. It would be a qualitative data. To understand the reasoning, the tonality of those feedbacks is sentiment analysis, right? Then machine translation, enabling the chatbots to understand what we are talking about, the tone in which we are talking, right? So NLP enables computers to process, analyze, and generate the human language. Now, the next part is computer vision. Now, computer vision focuses on enabling the computers to understand and interpret the visual information from images or videos. Now, it involves tasks like object recognition, right? If I just keep an egg in front of that, in front, it just input an egg, right? It should understand that we're talking about an egg. It should not give it as a thing called as ball, right? So the recognition, the object recognition is the first part that comes under computer vision. Then image classification, segmenting those images, right? And facial recognition. Now, computer vision has applications in areas like autonomous driving. We all know about Tesla. Tesla is fully automated, right? You don't need a driver to drive it, essentially, right? In the US per se. So how are these things evolving? It is evolving through AI, right? The lane assistance, that which lane are you driving on, what is the speed limit that is there. So everything is captured, right, by the sensors on the car, on the vehicle, and that inputs that the network, the chipsets inside that vehicle will understand, okay, now this is the speed limit, we cannot go beyond this is the lane in which we need to keep, we have a right turn ahead, so we can't be standing in the middle of the road, right? We need to come to the right if we want to take a right turn, right? So all these human understanding is now done through computers, right? So computer vision has various applications in autonomous vehicles, surveillance, and augmented reality. Now, these are the key elements of artificial intelligence. Now, what we talk about, why is it important, right? What is the importance of artificial intelligence? Number one comes the automation and efficiency it provides, right? We can automate a lot of mundane tasks that we do on a day-to-day basis. For example, if my flight got cancelled and I want a refund, right? And the airline is not providing me the refund, so I would have to write an email to them, right? This can be done very easily if we have AI incorporated in our emails, right? We can just have a basic information given and they can generate an entire email asking for refund in a primary account. So these mundane tasks that you not require a lot of attention to, but you have to do it, can be done through computers. So that's the major advantage. That's the most important thing that we talk about in artificial intelligence. Now, AI enables automation of repetitive and mundane tasks, allowing human to focus on more complex and creative work. By automating processes, AI can improve efficiency, reduce a lot of errors that humans tend to make, and increase the productivity across various industries. The second part is data analysis and decision making. Now, a lot of companies have started in this sector of AI, in which so they have a lot of clients that have a lot of data that is being generated, and the work of those companies is to analyze that data, find the various trends, find the underlying trends that are there, so that the company can make sound business decisions for their future of the company, right? So decision making and data analysis. Now, AI can analyze large volumes of data and extract valuable insights, patterns that are not easily identified by humans. The third aspect is personalization and customer experience. Now, AI powered systems can analyze the user behavior, and also it can refer to the historical data to deliver the personalized experience, right? For example, you're using phone on a day-to-day basis, right? And you would have noticed that you've searched something on let's say Google, on something of that, some product you have searched. Now it continuously comes to your feed on different channels, right? Be it Insta, be it Facebook, be it any other medium, it would just pop up as an ad, right? So these are the AI underlying things that are happening behind machine learning, understanding what is happening, what are the personalized customer preferences. So a lot of these companies tend to make the customers more feel connected to the brand, right? So this is how personalization and customer experience AI is affecting in that regard. Now, improved efficiency in manufacturing. When we talk about a lot of big industries, be it steel plants, be it power plants, be it a lot of different other manufacturing processes of small or big industries, right? Now, AI-powered systems can optimize these manufacturing processes, predictive the maintenance and quality control that is there. Now, this would lead to the increased production efficiency, reduced downtime, and improved product quality, right? Now, the advancements in research and science. Now, AI is transforming this scientific research by accelerating the data analysis, simulations, and hypothesis testing. Now, it enables scientists to explore the complex problems that are there, make significant discoveries out of it, and develop the innovative solutions, right? In material science, climate, how it is affecting, how it's changing, how global warming is affecting. So all these patterns can be now analyzed by computers using artificial intelligence. Now let's just talk about the newest tool that is out there called ChatGPT. Now, what is ChatGPT? So it is an AI-powered language model which is developed by a company known as OpenAI. Now, OpenAI is a non-profit AI research organization that is founded with the goal of promoting and developing friendly AI in the way that could benefit humanity as a whole. Now, ChatGPT is based on GPT. What that is generative pre-trained transformer architecture and has been trained on large amount of data to generate human-like text in response to the prompt that we provide. So that's the whole crux behind ChatGPT, in which we humans would provide them certain sort of prompts, the things that we want the computer to answer, and in the text-based form, since it's a text-based model, so it will give us results in a text-based format. So now let's just dissect the term GPT. What does it mean in a more technical way? So now GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer, right? So it is a type of artificial intelligence that can generate a text. So it does this by being trained on massive amounts of data. So once it's trained, it can be used to generate new text by simply starting with the prompt and letting the model predict the next word. So I'll be giving you a hands-on of this tool, how it works in a more simplistic way so that you get more comfortable with using ChatGPT as a tool. So the examples of what it can do, it can generate poems, it can write codes, scripts, musical pieces, emails, letters, and much more, right? Now, it has a special ability to translate text from one language to the other, right? So, for example, if you're in a new country, you want it to give it in a way of the language in whichever country you are, right? So it can translate that text for you. Now, it can answer questions about a variety of topics. Now, this has been trained till September 2021. So all the amount of data or all the knowledge that it possesses is till September 2021. So after that, it has not been trained to that kind of data, right? What else it can do? It can summarize text that is there for you. Can rephrase various text in the tone you want. Like, for example, if you want a formal, polite tone of any of the sentences, it'll give you in that regard. It can rephrase your emails in a much more better, attractive looking way, in a more catchy way, right? So all these things a GPT model can do, right? So now when we talk about GPT, right, let's just dissect these words: generative, pre-trained, and transformers. What does this mean? Now, generative means it create new information for you. That's generative. Pre-trained means that initially the models undergo an unsupervised pre-training phase where they're exposed to vast amount of data, right? Now, it is just given a random sort of data is given to it. Now, the model would then divide it into segments, understand it in its own way. For example, if I just give a data that has like a set of fruits, like a lot of fruits in a bowl, right? Now I just tell it to identify what they are, right? So how it would do that? It would not know what is an apple, what is an orange. It would just divide it first with the shape, then the color. So it will have its own steps of understanding, right? So that is how it would be, right? Then transformer. Now, deep learning models such as transformer utilize a technique called tracking relationships in sequential data to learn the context of how it is done. Now, in this case of GPTs, they observe words or tokens within a sentence and make predictions about the following word. Now, ChatGPT does not understand like how we count words. So it count words in a form of tokens, right? So it has a set format, set transaction. Like, for example, $1 is 82 rupees, right? Similarly, one word is equivalent to X amount of tokens, right? This is GPT understands in a token way, right? So what does ChatGPT mean? What is the rationale behind introducing this transformer, and what are the steps in which it trains, right? How does it evolve, right? What are the training, what are the steps involved in which it understands what we are talking about, right? So the first part is training GPT. Now GPT is trained using a process called generative pre-training. So what happens in this is, in generative pre-training, the model is given large corpus of text and is asked to predict the next word in the sequence, right? So Ram is going to do dash. So now it has to predict what it is, right? So this is how it works. Next word prediction comes the first step in training the GPT, right? So now this process is repeated a lot of times, over and over again, right? In the sentences that we give them, as we are generating a lot of data that is all over on the internet, right? So it trains on those data sets that are there, right? So the model learns to predict the next word with increasing accuracy. Now it takes a lot of time for it to understand, to get trained, but once it gets trained, it's very less to making errors in that regard. Then is splitting the data set. Now the data set is split into two parts. Number one is the training data set. Number two is the test data set. Now the training data set is used to train the GPT model, and the test data set is used to evaluate the GPT model. The test set is not used to train the model, so it can be used to measure the model's accuracy on the data that it has not seen. Something that new comes up, it gets used to that. The third step is training the GPT model, right? So now the GPT model is trained using a technique called supervised learning. So in supervised learning, the model is given a set of input data and set of output data. So the model learns to map the input data to the output data. So in case of GPT, the input data is a sequence of words, and the output data is the next word in that sequence, right? So this is how it develops itself. This is how it grows itself. Now, evaluating the GPT model. Now, this step, the GPT model is evaluated on the test set. The accuracy of the model is measured by the percentage of times the model has predicted the correct next word in the sequence. Now, then comes the fine tuning of the GPT, right? So the GPT model can be fine tuned on a specific task. The fine tuning is a process of adjusting the model's parameters to improve its performance on a specific task. For example, GPT can fine tune to generate text, fine tune to translate the languages, and answer some very generic questions that it can get from a day-to-day basis. Now, the GPT model can be used to generate text, translate languages, answer the various questions, and perform certain tasks, right? So the model can be used to generate the human-like text, translate text from one language to the other, answer various questions about a variety of topics, and summarize those texts. So this is what GPT actually means. What are the steps involved in its learning? So this is what we have learned. Now let's just talk about the newest tool that is out there called ChatGPT. Now what is ChatGPT? So it is an AI-powered language model which is developed by a company known as OpenAI. Now, OpenAI is a non-profit AI research organization that is founded with the goal of promoting and developing friendly AI in the way that could benefit humanity as a whole. Now, ChatGPT is based on GPT. What that is generative pre-trained transformer architecture, and has been trained on large amount of data to generate human-like text in response to the prompt that we provide. So that's the whole crux behind ChatGPT, in which we humans would provide them certain sort of prompts, the things that we want the computer to answer, and in the text-based form, since it's a text-based model, so it will give us results in a text-based format. So now let's just dissect the term GPT. What does it mean in the more technical way? So now GPT stands for generative pre-trained transformer, right? So it is a type of artificial intelligence that can generate a text. So it does this by being trained on massive amounts of data. So once it's trained, it can be used to generate new text by simply starting with the prompt and letting the model predict the next word. So I'll be giving you a hands-on of this tool, how it works in a more simplistic way, so that you go more comfortable with using ChatGPT as a tool. So the examples of what it can do, it can generate poems, it can write codes, scripts, musical pieces, emails, letters, and much more, right? Now, it has a special ability to translate text from one language to the other, right? So for example, if you're in a new country, you want it to give it in a way of the language in whichever country you are, right? So it can translate that text for you. Now it can answer questions about a variety of topics. Now this has been trained till September 2021. So all the amount of data or all the knowledge that it possesses is till September 2021. So after that, it has not been trained to that kind of data. Right? What else it can do? It can summarize text that is there for you. Can rephrase various text in the tone you want. Like for example, if you want a formal, polite tone of any of the sentences, it'll give you in that regard. It can rephrase your emails in a much more better, attractive looking way, in a more catchy way, right? So all these things a GPT model can do, right? So now when we talk about GPT, right, let's just dissect these words: generative, pre-trained, and transformers. What does this mean? Now generative means it create new information for you. That's generative. Pre-trained means that initially the models undergo an unsupervised pre-training phase where they are exposed to vast amount of data, right? Now it is just given a random sort of data is given to it. Now the model would then divide it into segments, understand it in its own way. For example, if I just give a data that has like a set of fruits, like a lot of fruits in a ball, right? Now I just tell it to identify what they are, right? So how it would do that? It would not know what is an apple, what is an orange. It would just divide it first with the shape, then the color. So it will have its own steps of understanding, right? So that is how it would be, right? Then transformer. Now deep learning models such as transformer utilize a technique called tracking relationships in sequential data to learn the context of how it is done. Now in this case of GPTs, they observe words or tokens within a sentence and make predictions about the following word. Now ChatGPT does not understand like how we count words. So it count words in a form of tokens, right? So it has a set format, set transaction. Like for example, $1 is 82 rupees, right? Similarly, one word is equivalent to X amount of tokens, right? This is GPT understands in a token way, right? So what does ChatGPT mean? What is the rationale behind introducing this transformer, and what are the steps in which it trains, right? How does it evolve, right? What are the steps involved in which it understands what we are talking about, right? So the first part is training GPT. Now GPT is trained using a process called generative pre-training. So what happens in this is, in generative pre-training, the model is given large corpus of text and is asked to predict the next word in the sequence, right? So Ram is going to do dash. So now it has to predict what it is, right? So this is how it works. Next word prediction comes the first step in training the GPT, right? So now this process is repeated a lot of times, over and over again, right? In the sentences that we give them, as we are generating a lot of data that is all over on the internet, right? So it trains on those data sets that are there, right? So the model learns to predict the next word with increasing accuracy. Now it takes a lot of time for it to understand, to get trained, but once it gets trained, it's very less to making errors in that regard. Then is splitting the data set. Now the data set is split into two parts. Number one is the training data set. Number two is the test data set. Now the training data set is used to train the GPT model, and the test data set is used to evaluate the GPT model. The test set is not used to train the model, so it can be used to measure the model's accuracy on the data that it has not seen. Something that new comes up, it gets used to that. The third step is training the GPT model, right? So now the GPT model is trained using a technique called supervised learning. So in supervised learning, the model is given a set of input data and set of output data. So the model learns to map the input data to the output data. So in case of GPT, the input data is a sequence of words, and the output data is the next word in that sequence, right? So this is how it develops itself. This is how it grows itself. Now evaluating the GPT model. Now this step, the GPT model is evaluated on the test set. The accuracy of the model is measured by the percentage of times the model has predicted the correct next word in the sequence. Now then comes the fine tuning of the GPT, right? So the GPT model can be fine tuned on a specific task. The fine tuning is a process of adjusting the model's parameters to improve its performance on a specific task. For example, GPT can fine-tune to generate text, fine-tune to translate the languages, and answer some very generic questions that it can get from a day-to-day basis. Now, the GPT model can be used to generate text, translate languages, answer the various questions, and perform certain tasks, right? So the model can be used to generate the human-like text, translate text from one language to the other, answer various questions about a variety of topics, and summarize those texts. So this is what GPT actually means. What are the steps involved in its learning? So this is what we have learned. So now in this module, let's start by understanding Excel using ChatGPT. Now before that, as we all know that Excel is the most popular tool when it comes to data analysis or just creating something out of data in a more quantitative manner. Microsoft Excel is the tool that we all go to, right? Now, how is it possible that we can integrate ChatGPT in understanding Excel in a very layman's term, right? If I do not know how to do complex operations on Excel, how can ChatGPT help me and make my life easier, right? I can consider ChatGPT as my AI assistant, and it can help me reduce a lot of mundane tasks, ease my process, and improve my productivity, right? If you are at office or if you have your own business starting in, Excel and ChatGPT, right, integrated in Excel can ease out a lot of your work. So let's just have a quick overview of the dashboard that Excel has. Then let's switch on to ChatGPT and understand using various case studies, right? So I'll start off by opening up Excel, starting with a blank sheet and making you understand the different things that are there in the dashboard, and then switch on to ChatGPT. So I'll go to new and then I'll open Excel, right? Microsoft Excel, right? I don't need to name it. I'll just open, right? So a blank Excel worksheet comes into play, right? So what this is, these are rows numbered from 1 to n, and from A to n number, that is what a column is, right? So now each cell in that worksheet has a specific number, right? For example, I just choose one random column, that in column E, right? One random cell I click on, so it becomes E11. So that is the number that is given to that cell, right? So if I combine a lot of this becomes a combination starting from C5, right? So these are the things, that basic things that Excel has, right? So you can insert tables, you can create a lot of tables, tabulations from it. So we'll now shift on to ChatGPT and understand if we have certain data set, how we can analyze it or how we can integrate a lot of things, right? Understanding Excel through ChatGPT. So I'll go to my search engine. I'll randomly click on OpenAI because that's the company that makes ChatGPT as a product. So I'll click on OpenAI and click on the tool that you want, right? So now ChatGPT is the free version that they provide, and GPT-4 is the paid version that they provide. So today, for understanding both 3.5 and the 4 model, the ChatGPT and GPT-4 model, I'll go for the paid version, that is GPT-4, right? So let's just try ChatGPT Plus, that is GPT-4. So I have already logged in. So basically you have to log in, yes, and then pay X amount, certain amount, and then be a premium customer to ChatGPT, right? So I'll start with clicking on the new chat option. So now, as you can see in this dashboard, that there are two models that it shows up, that is GPT 3.5 and GPT-4. So now what is the difference between the two? So the basic difference is that GPT-4 has a higher order thinking. It has a higher order logical reasoning to it, right? We can see in the company's this website, you can see how advanced this is, right? GPT-4 can solve difficult problems with greater accuracy. Number one, it has better, broader knowledge and higher order problem solving logical reasoning, right? So these are the things that are better in GPT-4 as compared to ChatGPT, right? So for example, both the inputs, for both the same inputs, both the models have different outputs. So GPT-4 would give you more crisp, better understanding results, better understanding outputs, while ChatGPT would give you a bit of vague answers, right? It would not give you the complex solutions to complex prompts, right? So now in terms of the benchmarks that it has set, now ChatGPT 4 ranks 90th percentile, which is like an advanced level student in your class. And in the uniform bar exam, normal ChatGPT scored 10th percentile. That's like the average student of a class. So this is a difference. It has more higher order thinking, it has more higher order logical reasoning to it. Then similarly in biology Olympiad, it is 31st percentile, while GPT-4 is 99th percentile. That's basically like the top 1% of the class. So this is how it is. It is developed with much better understanding, right? So one disadvantage of GPT-4 is that it will give you accurate results. It will give you crisp results with better logical reasoning, but it would not give you fast results. It would give you results, but in a little slower pace. While GPT 3.5 would give you, it's a fast model, it will give you instant results, right? Quick results. So ChatGPT 4, since it's paid, right, but it has a cap of 25 messages in every 3 hours. So that's like a demerit that you can, if you're paid, you cannot use it a number of times. For a 3-hour period, you can only get in 25 prompts, right? So these are the differences between the two models. So let's just, for us Excel, we do not need that kind of higher order thinking. So we'll start with GPT 3.5, right? So now I'll just ask GPT 3.5 to generate me a table, right? Because Excel understands the language of tables. So we'll have tables of, we will have 3 or 4 columns, and we'll have n number of rows. So what can be the prompt that I can give, right? So I'll just give it a random command that generate me a list of, what do we say, 100 movies rated by, let's just take IMDb, right? I am rated by IMDb in a table form, right? Now it will give me 100 movies in a table form. But now if I just give it this prompt, it will just give me one column with 100 movies. But what do we want? We want 3 columns, right? So I would give them a specific prompt, right? Specific prompt. Creating first column as movie name, second as rating, third as year of release, right? So I'll just ask it to generate me this, right? So as we can see, it just created 3 columns with movie name, rating, and year of release, right? So now it will give me all the movies that are rated. Now it is also giving me ratings in a descending order. The highest, the Shawshank Redemption, it says it's the highest. Then it just gives me in a descending manner. Now we can see in this prompt that just ends here in a very abrupt manner. Why is that the case? Because this is the case because it has reached its limit per prompt, right? Now, if I want it to continue, I'll just write continue, right? Yeah. Just go on. It'll just keep on generating me the results that we asked for. So now what we can do is we can just go and just copy this table right there, right? Either we can copy it from here, or we can just randomly take this input, Control C, go to our Excel worksheet and paste it, right? So now we have asked, so basically we asked ChatGPT to generate me data, right? Now for a test purpose, this is good to do, but when you are considering a much more serious way for analyzing any data that is there for your company, you cannot just rely on ChatGPT to give you data. You need to have your own sources, your trustworthy sources of data, right, to analyze. because this may not be as accurate as it seems. So it can have a lot of errors in play, because it will take a lot of time to develop that kind of model that would give you peer reviewed results. But till the time it is there, have the data that is trustworthy, right? So just like that, we have a lot of things that are there, right? So I'll just copy the data that's there. So the first step that we did was we just asked it to create me a list, a table of 3 columns and n number of rows, that's 100, right? So this is what we did. Now, what if we have to analyze other things, right? Like maximum, minimum, sum of things, right? If I do not understand how the Excel formulas functions, or how does the functions in Excel work, right? So what do we do in that regard, right? So I'll give you a hands-on on that as well. So now in this module, let's just first try and understand certain functions that are there. So you really do not need to know all this when you're working around with ChatGPT, knowing Excel, but I'll give you a brief about it so that you would have a secondary thinking on how the functions also work, along with how you can make ChatGPT work around these functions, right? So the first very important function that is there is known as COUNTIF. So what is that function? What does it do? So function that counts the number of cells that match a specific condition, right? So in a range of things, what is the specific conditions that I opted for? So it will count, right? It will count the number of cells that match that condition. So that is known as COUNTIF. Now, the basic syntax of a function when you write in Excel is equals to sign, then you would write the name of that function. Here it is COUNTIF. So I'll write COUNTIF, I'll type it out, COUNTIF, then open parenthesis, so open bracket, then the range I would select. So I would randomly click on Excel. So how do we select the range? Let's say you have this data that we created. So my range would be, let's say, from the cell. So from the cell, let's say D3 to, let's say, anything of that sort, right? So this is D63, 62, right? So from D3 to D62 would be my range, right? So I would just drag it through the column, and that would become my range. And then the conditions that I want. So if I want to search a specific word, so I'll just put it in the inverted commas, just write that condition and close brackets and enter. So it would give me in that range how many times that specific specific condition has been met. So this is what COUNTIF does. That's the first function. The second function is length. So a function that returns the length of a text strings, right? So what would be the length of that word? What would be the length of that string, right? So it would give me that number. So what is the syntax? Equal to len, open bracket, the cell that I need to select, close bracket. So that would be the second function. The third is left and right. So if I want to extract, right, the function that returns specific number of characters from a cell, right, from the left side or the right side in a cell, right? So it would give me the number of characters. So left, the cell, number of characters, right, cell, number of characters. I'll tell you how it is important. How would you know that? I would give you a brief on that. Then is concatenate, a function that combines multiple text cells into a single cell. For example, that, if I want to combine a lot of multiple texts into one single cell, then it would help. For example, I'll just take first name, second name. I just want to merge it in one thing. Then I'll use concatenate, cell 1, cell 2. Then it will merge, right? Then is the trim function, which removes extra unwanted space that are there from the cell, right? So this is done through trim command. Equal to trim, open parenthesis, the cell, select that cell, close bracket, right? So let's just move into ChatGPT. Let's just understand certain prompts of this regard. Okay, let's just take an example of this data set, right, in which I have number of companies mentioned here, random companies, and its revenue per quarter. So quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4, right? Now, if I want to know the sum of all these, right, how would I know? What would be the thing to know the sum from each cell, right? So I can just understand, okay, this cell number is what? What is the cell name? E2. What is the cell name here? E20. Now I can just go to ChatGPT and write. I just give it a prompt that write an Excel formula to to add up the values in cells E2 through E10. So from E2 to E10, what are the values I want it to give me? How I can do that, how I can sum. I can't just go to Excel and just be like, I open up a calculator and I just I add individual values and sum it, right? It would not work in that regard, right? So what would I do, right? So I would just ask ChatGPT. If I'm a layman, I don't know how to use Excel, I'll just write in formula to add up the values in cells E2 through E20, right? So I'll just type it out. So now it will give me the formula to add up the values in cell E2 to E20 in Excel. You can use sum function. Here's the formula. So as I already mentioned that a function, right, in Excel would start from an equality sign, then the name. Now if I want to do sum, it just gives me sum, and then open bracket the range, right? So I'll just copy paste this and let's see if it works or not, right? I'll just randomly place it here, right? Now I'll just put enter. Now ChatGPT, without knowing what that data is, without knowing what it is, it just tells me, okay, this is how you sum it, right? Now I can just cross verify the thing here, right? It just gives me equal to. I'll put the same formula, equal to sum, open bracket. I'll just click on the entire range over here and then close parenthesis and enter, right? So it will give me the same answer, right? It's just that I did not know. If I did not know the thing called equal to sum, what should I do? Should I Google it out, or is there a better way to just give it, okay, this is the cell, this is the thing I want to do, just tell me how to do it, right? So it can act as your assistant to just get rid of the mundane tasks that are there, right? You can even ask ChatGPT to make you a dashboard of various things, right? If you want to analyze trends, if you want to visualize a lot of things, right? You can ask it to give it formulas or give it the syntax of how you can modify the data, analyze the data, manipulate that data in the regard in which your problem statements, the solution to your problem statements are met, right? So the second aspect that I would be talking about is, let's just take another example. Now let's just take this data set right there. So there is a thing called log price. Now it has a lot of decimals right here, right? But I don't want these kind of decimals. I just want a round whole number to the closest value that is there, right? So how would I do that? How would I round it off? I do not know it certainly, right? So I would just ask ChatGPT. I would ask it to just give me that sort of thing. Write a formula to round a number in a cell to the nearest whole number, right? So I'll just ask it how to do that. So it gives me that there is a command. It tells me, okay, there's a command called round. You can just type what it is there. Now it also gives me a description of what it is. Now I don't know what A1 is. I don't know what 0 is. A1, okay, I understand that it is the cell reference. It is the reference of that particular cell. Now A1 refers to the cell containing the number you want to round. The second argument 0 specifies that you want to round it to 0 decimal places, effectively rounding it to the nearest whole number, right? So it gives me in a very crisp manner, in a very certain way that, okay, this is how you do it. You don't need to, bang your head around that, okay, how to do it, right? You can get easy solutions, easy, quick methods, improving your productivity, right? Okay, so now if I want to round it off, I'll just paste it over here. I'll just paste the formula that ChatGPT provided me. So it says equal to round and the cell. Now A1 is definitely not my cell. It just gave me a dummy number here. So I'll just remove it and I'll just paste another cell. Let's just say I want the rounding off for K2 cell. So I'll just click the cell K2 and I don't want any decimal places. So I'll just put enter, right? So I'll just remove it. I'll just place it here so that it's convenient. It's in the same row. So now it gives me the same thing, right? So now if I want this to be rounded off, so what would I do? I will just drag these things here. So what would happen is it will just apply all of these things, just that Excel has that kind of brain in which it will utilize it for the row that you are providing, right? So it will know in that regard. See? So this is how it is there. Now I have got another column right here that would give me the rounding off of that number. Okay, so now what if we want to calculate the average of, let's say, column number D, that is Q3 revenue? What if I want what is the average of it? And considering that if I am a layman and I don't know how to use Excel, How would I do that in a shorter way, right? So what will I do? I'll just go to ChatGPT and I'll write in the prompt, right? So now I'll just check in the data set. So if it is column number D, right? D2 to let's say D20, right? I need an average of it, right? So I'll just mention the row numbers as D2 to D20, right? So I'll write this. So it will give me what needs to be done. So right, so the function that is used is equal to average. Now I'll just simply click on this cell right here and paste in that formula and the syntax, and it just gives me it automatically selects the range, right? So if I give them the starting and the end, it'll just directly do that, right? So that's how ChatGPT can enhance the way you're working on Excel, right? It will make your life much more easier, right? So here it gives me 54,619 is the average revenue of Q3 combining all the companies right here, right? So if I want to do it the other way, if I just want like to give me the average of the same company in all the 4 quarters, how would that go? We would just have to mention them. Okay, if it is the same row, then it will be B2, C2, D2, E2 if I'm considering the first company right here, right? So that can also be done. Now what do I have to do is that I need to calculate how many times is, like, let's say, what are the total number of movies in English, French and Italian, right? How would I do that, right? So if I know, okay, if there are 4 languages right here or 5 languages or how many other languages, I want to segregate, I want to find how many are there, how many let's say English movies are there, how many French movies, how many Italian movies. How would I do that? Okay, so I'll just type in the prompt that how to calculate the total number of times a word has been repeated in a column. Okay, write a syntax for the same in Excel, right? So it tells me that the function that I am going to use is countf, right? So in the previous module, when I talked about a generalized bit of key functions that are important, I talked about countf, right? To count the number of times a certain thing has come up, right? So the same thing is what is mentioned over here, right? It's just that I gave you that reference so that you would have an idea of it. If I was a layman, if I was just starting out, I definitely would not know what COUNTIF is. Now, in a very simplest of the terms, what I did, I just added a prompt here to ask GPT, the computer, how to calculate the total number of times a word has been repeated in a column. Write the syntax for the same. Right? This is basically, I'm telling that, okay, this is the problem that I'm facing. Find a solution. That's your job, because this is like an AI assistant. It will help you in whatever ways that you would want, right? So it has given me an example also how to do that, right? So I'll just copy this right here. It has given me an option. So let's just put it over here, right? So it will give me 0 because nothing is there. So I'll just edit it out. The range, right? Now I'll just remove the range section. I'll just drag and drop all this entire range from B2 to B22, right? Then what are the criteria I'm looking for? For English, I'm looking for English, right? So I'll write English, right? So I'll just print and enter, right? So now it has given me the exact number of counts that English is repeated in column B, right? So if you want to check it, if you want to cross check 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So that's accurate. So similarly, if I have to find how many times the word French has repeated in column B, how would I do that? I'll just copy the same syntax that ChatGPT provided me, change the range from A to B, then A20 to B22, right? 22, right? Then Apple, changing Apple to French. right? Then I press enter. So now the French has also been repeated 5 times. Similar thing I have to do for just removing French and just adding Italian, and now it's selecting a different range. I'll just give it the range that I want, right? And I'll just press enter. So 6 is the number of time Italian is repeated in column number B. So we can state in general, if we have a problem statement, how many movies are in English, 5 in the entire data set. How many are in French, 5. How many are in Italian, 6. So we'll get a generalized way. So I did not do anything on my own. I just asked ChatGPT as an AI assistant that, okay, help me solve this part. So it did, right? The second thing that we talked about was trim, right? So I'll just ask ChatGPT if there are unwanted spaces, right? I'll just ask if there are unwanted space in a cell at the start, what syntax should I use, right? I'll just type it out and let's see what it has to say, right? So it gives me the exact command that I was referring to. It gives me that, okay, it knows you want to use trim because this is how you would get rid of the unwanted spaces that are there, right? It just mentions and gives me a exact thing how to do it. So I'll just copy this. I'll just create another column right here, right? And I'll just write that thing here, right? So trim this, right? Trim A, I'll just start with A2, right? So now I'll just write here correct range, right? I'll just make another column, bold it maybe, right? Now this is the thing, equal to trim and the cell. I have to click on that cell or just type out the cell name. So what I will do, I'll just, since it understands, so I'll just drag and drop till the very end. And now as we can see, it's right here in row number 8 there was this much unwanted space, right? In number 12 that was there, in number 17 it was there, 19, 18. So that extra space, that unwanted space is now gone, right? Now you get a clear uncluttered view of that movie title column, right? This is how you use trim, right? Now let's just take another example, right? If I want a set number of characters, right? If I want to extract, let's say this is a data set that gives me the name of that state, right? Indiana, Delaware, and all this, and the county names with their pin codes. Now if I want to just extract the pin codes, right? I just want the pin code to be out there, right? How would I do that? I know that pin code is of 6 letters right here, right? 6, all it is the same. Now I want to extract it. How would I do that? I don't know. I would ask ChatGPT how to do that. So let's just ask, how do I extract 5 letters in the left of a cell and add the same in a new column, right? So let's just see what ChatGPT has to answer. So as we also read before that we can use a syntax called as left, right? How do you use that? Again, it has mentioned number of how to use that. I'll just copy this. I'll just paste, since I want from the left of this cell, I'll just paste this, right? I'll just change the cell to B2. I'll just add the number of characters I want, right? I want 6 letters, so I'll just move it to 6. And there you go. I have extracted the first 6 letters here and I can drag and drop to the entire thing, right? So this is the thing. So basically now the shift of using Excel is how either you can learn how to use Excel, that's number 1. But if you don't want to sacrifice on that, if you just want a shorter way ahead, if you just want that my workflow is smooth, it's faster, it's quick, then I do not have the bandwidth or the time to learn Excel. What I would do, I would just add ChatGPT how to do that. So now I've extracted. So now what would happen is that I'm given a business problem. The first approach is to go to ChatGPT. Of course, use your brain, but the first element is to just know what ChatGPT can answer, right? It will give you some idea of or the other. Right. So next we can also talk about Kincat, right? We spoke about how it is used, but again, let me just show you how you can use it. What if I wanna combine two cells and add it in a new column? How would I do that? Tell me. So it mentions you have to use the function known as concatenate. The syntax is mentioned right here. I'll just copy the syntax right here, how to use it. Now, the best part about ChatGPT is it would give you a hands-on view. Okay, well, this needs to be done. Also, it will give you a bit of a brief of how things are happening, right? It would not give you anything too vague that is not true. Of course, you can try it out, you can check it out. But yeah, you can get what you want from it, right? So I have used concatenate here. Instead of this, I'll just changed my range, right? I want this first name and the second name to come in the same cell. So there you go. I got it. I got the name together combined, right? Similarly, I'll just drag and drop till the very end, and it'll give me the entire combination of column A and column B, right? So next, let's just say another thing. Let's just find out the number of characters that they're there, right? So how would I do that? How do I find the count of characters in a single cell? How do I do that? Just type in. So it's basically typing out what you're thinking, right? It just gives me the thing that I can use equal to len and just try it out. So right, count. Let's make another column, count, add my syntax. It's just taking another cell. I'll just delete it. It's just a dummy cell. I'll just add cell name A2 and press enter. So it tells me, okay, Miss Jerry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It gives me the correct order, 9. And similarly, I can do. Now, the point is that it would also take into consideration the space. If I have a blank here, right, it will increase it to 10, right? So it takes in consideration of all the blanks that are there as well, right? The similar thing, if I just don't want this, I just want another cell. Let's say this one. So I'll just put enter, right? And then the best part, I can just drag and drop and it will come off the column B, right? So these are the things that you can work on, right? What if I want to calculate the weighted average of a range of cells? How would I do that, right? So I'll just type in calculate the weighted average, right? So it would give me what is the parameter in which I have to do, right? So it says that sum product is the aspect that I need to look at, right? So I will have to mention my range 1, range 2, then the sum of range 2, right? So this is how the exact weighted average will come, right? So we can get that as well if you want to, right? What else can we do? Let's just look at some other things. What if I want to create a drop down list of a cell, right, of a range of a column, right? So how would I do that? How would I create a drop down list, right? So I would ask it to tell me how it is. Now, one thing that you have to know about it is that the things that are here, right, it in a single thread, it has its own memory, right? So if I'm just writing it down in a single, I don't have to mention that, okay, tell me in Excel in every prompt. It would have the memory of the entire this entire thread that we are talking about, right? It knows that the context is about Excel. It knows that, okay, the things that we are talking about is of Excel, right? So it will just give me that the entire thing that will come up here, right? So it is stating me that to create a drop down list with the values from B20, you can use data validation. Here's the thing, right? Select the range of cells you want to drop down list. For example, assume that you want to create, go to the data tab in the Excel, click on data validation dialog box, open settings tab, allow drop down choose list. So you can do it in this regard. So anything that you have in your mind that is even a wild thought that, okay, this is the things that we can change in Excel, right? But you have no clue how to do that. You can just type it out in Excel. It would definitely have some or the other way to assist you on what you want to do, right? This was about general basic prompts in which you can know what is happening, how it is happening, right?